everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope everybody's doing well. Don't you love the Aurora Borealis? I would do anything to go see those beautiful northern lights. But I'm a little bit torn because you know me, I don't like cold weather. So I'd have to find just the right time to go to that part of the world and see those beautiful lights. In the meantime, I'm going to have to settle for my own Aurora Borealis. I actually have one on my ceiling. Let me show you. So here's a view from the doorway. And let me just walk in. And this is what my ceiling looks like. I love hanging out here, I really do. And so do my cats, they love it. They hang out with me. This is where I come to when I want to relax. So all of my lights are off except for the galaxy lights. And I have quite a few of them set up in strategic places. Let me just walk in a little bit further. Excuse me, kitty cats. And here's my studio. It's a bit of a mess, so I'm not going to show you up close, but that's where I do my tutorials. As you can see, I have lots of lamps there. But anyway, guys, this is my own little personal galaxy. It changes lights. And it really is gorgeous, I must say. So anyway, whenever I want to relax, I sit in this chair right here and I put my music on and admire my beautiful Aurora Borealis. I think my favorite one is the one that's above the bar there. That one is pretty amazing. And my next favorite is the one that's in this corner, right where the chair is. I like it there as well. And of course my cats love it as well. They love hanging out here with me, the two of them. So anyway guys, that's what's behind me as well. They're called galaxy lights and I got them on Amazon in case you're interested. They have all different kinds, different prices. Some play music, some have other features. I actually don't like the ones that have all the fancy features. I like the plain ones. But I did try to get the ones that project a lot. So if you're looking for those lights, make sure that you get one that covers a lot of square footage. So anyway, guys, I'm so glad you're here because we're going to be making that gorgeous necklace that you saw in the introduction. And I've actually made that design quite a few times in the last several years. I'm pretty sure I put out a tutorial a couple of years ago. It's one of my favorite designs because it's very versatile. You can make it with any kind of bead. But today we're going to be using the beads that came in the August edition of Didi's Deluxe Bead box. The name of the collection was Celestial Show, and I know I'm super late, it's already November, and this was an August box, but I received the box shortly after I had broken my wrist, so I really couldn't do very much because I was in the cast for 8 weeks. But I was trying to organize my studio the other day and I came across it, and I couldn't resist making something with the gorgeous beads. I must say the palette was a little unusual. Most of the beads were black and some of them had a beautiful titanium finish on them. But anyway guys, you're going to get to see it because we're going to start the tutorial by doing bead selection. And obviously that box is no longer available because it's already November. But I know they're getting ready to launch a new box. So if you haven't heard about Didi's Deluxe Bead box, I'll leave a link down below so you can go check it out. Now before we get started, let me remind you that I always leave timestamps down below, so if you want to skip to any portion of the video, you can do so. I'm also going to be leaving a list of all the materials down below in case you don't have the beads, so if you need to go online and search for the beads, you'll have the sizes and the colors and everything. And if you scroll all the way down, you'll see a list of all the tools that I'm going to be using today. Another thing that I would really appreciate, if you have time, is if you leave some comments down below. And also don't forget to give my video a thumbs up because it really helps my channel. So anyway guys, I don't want to make this video any longer than it should be. So let's go ahead, turn the camera around and we'll get started. And here's Didi's Deluxe Bead box for the month of August 2022. The name of the box is Celestial Show. Let's go ahead and select the beads. As you can see, a lot of the beads have the Aurora Borealis finish, and many of them are black to represent the nighttime. I absolutely love this palette, I really do. It's so unusual and so pretty. And what really caught my attention were these gorgeous moonstone beads. Look at these guys, look how pretty these are. These are 6mm in size, and the color of this moonstone is Mystic Aura. I have seen these beads before at gem shows and I absolutely love them. I just love the way the light reflects off these beads. They're absolutely gorgeous. Another strand that really caught my attention were these gorgeous rondelles. This color is called Matte Titanium, and as you can see, they're faceted rondelles, and they definitely represent the Aurora Borealis because of all the gorgeous colors, guys. Look at these. They're absolutely stunning. But anyway, these measure 6 by 4 millimeters. I really like that size, and we're going to be using some of these in our design today. We're also going to be using these 6 millimeter size beads. These are smooth rounds, as you can see, and they're matte, and they're in a black color. And of course, I do want to use these little stars. These are absolutely stunning. These were actually bonus beads in this collection, and they're called pressed AB crystal check glass stars. They measure 8 millimeters in size, and they have a gorgeous AB finish on them. Another item that caught my attention were these 2 items in here. I wasn't sure whether to use this ring, but after thinking about it, I think I'm going to skip using the ring, and I'm going to use one of these moon shapes. These are called Crescent Moons. Let me just pull one out and show you. So here's what it looks like. And I love this component because it has 2 holes. So that'll make it real easy to use in a necklace design. And I'm only going to use this one. I'm not going to use the other one. Now I don't know if I'm going to use these spacer beads, but I'll pull them out just in case. I'm definitely going to use one of these lobster claw clasps. And I do want to use a couple of these large 8 millimeter size beads. We actually received 2 strands, this frosted one and then this other one, which is considered matte. And I think I want to use a couple of these frosted ones just because they seem to have the same finish as that Crescent Moon. And the last item that I'm going to use is this chain. It's in a black color, as you can see. And that's it from this collection. I'm going to be using some craft wire, and this is by Benna Create. I got this on Amazon. It's 18 gauge, and even though it says gunmetal, it actually looks black to me. But if you don't have this kind of wire, you can use antique silver. As long as it's 18 gauge, that's what you need. I have some head pins here. These are in a gunmetal color, as you can see, and I think these are about 1.5 inches long. I have a couple of jump rings here. These are in a gunmetal color, and they're 6 millimeters in size. So now that we have the beads selected, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to remove some of these beads from the strands, and we're going to work on the focal part of the necklace first. Here are the items we're going to need for the focal piece of the necklace. And I forgot a couple of items, guys. I do have a 5 millimeter jump ring here that we're going to use with the Crescent Moon. And I also have these head pins. These are actually 20 gauge. They're a little bit thicker than this one. I'm going to use this one for the star, and I'm going to use these for the beaded components that we're going to be making. And the reason I like to use these is because they're very hard and very sturdy. And what I do is I take the head off the head pins and I form loops with them. I prefer these because they are a thinner gauge and it gives the piece a little bit more of a delicate feel. Sometimes when you use 18 gauge wire, it can make a piece look very chunky, and that's not the look that I want. But if you want to use 18 gauge, by all means use it. I am going to be using my one-step looper tool. This one makes loops with an inner diameter of 2.25 millimeters. But if you want to make your loops the traditional way, by all means do it. It's just that I'm trying to take it easy on my wrist because I haven't healed fully yet. So we're going to start by cutting a piece of this 18 gauge wire for the upper portion of the focal piece. This is the only place where I'm going to use this wire because, as you can see, it's very thick wire. And by the way, it's a good idea to straighten your wire out before you cut it off the spool. So I'm going to start by cutting a 2.5 inch piece. You really don't need a big piece. And now we're going to form some loops using the one-step looper tool. So to use this tool, we're simply going to place the wire on the jaws like this. And you want to make sure the wire is right in the middle of the jaws. It doesn't have to go through the back hole unless you have a very long pin or something that you need to trim. Once you have it on there, you're going to give it a squeeze. And then you're going to take this part of the wire and kink it a little bit away from the jaws, just like that. And then close it all the way and remove. Now, one thing that happens is that sometimes the loop doesn't close all the way. So you just simply come in here with some flat nose pliers very gently and close it. And the reason I'm saying gently is because this wire has a coating on it and it will come off if you're a little bit too rough with it. So now that we have this part done, I'm going to prepare 2 more using my 20 gauge pins. So here we have 3 with a loop and we have this regular head pin, the 22 gauge. Let's go ahead and prepare the star. And I'm going to use this 22 gauge head pin. As you can see, I threaded it through the bottom. Now for this one, I'm going to make a wrap loop. So I'm going to grab the pin at the top of the bead like this, kink it like this, move to this portion of my pliers. I don't want a very big loop, so I'm keeping it near the tip of my pliers. And I'm going to take this tail and wrap it around the nose of my pliers like this. Flip my pliers around. I'm going to turn it towards me a little bit so that I can get that loop closer to the bead. Take the tail now and wrap it towards the back. Remove the pliers. And now we're going to form some wraps. So I'm going to grab the loop with some skinny pliers, and these are the crimping pliers, but I like using them because they have a very skinny tip. I'm going to grab the loop just like this, and with another set of pliers, these are needle nose pliers, I'm going to grab the tail and form a couple of wraps. Once you have your wraps done, you can go ahead and cut off the excess wire. And if you see a sharp end sticking out, you definitely want to tuck it in. So that's what we have. I think it's really cute. Let me just move my work up a little bit. I always like to clean up my workspace. Now the challenge with this crescent moon is that I want to hang one of these right below it. And it's going to be a challenge because there's not a whole lot of room. So I'm going to have to create some very tiny loops. So I'm going to make the loops manually. I'm not going to use the one-step looper tool. I'm going to snip the head off my head pin. And now using some flat nose pliers, I'm going to kink the end at about, I would say, 1/4 of an inch because I don't want the loop to be very big. Just like that. I'm going to grab the tip now with some round nose pliers. You want to make sure that it's flush and then go ahead and form your loop. Like I said, it needs to be pretty small. And you do want to make sure that you close it really well and straighten it out if you need to. That looks pretty good. So now we're going to thread on one of these beads. These are the moonstone beads. I'm going to grab the pin at the top of the bead, and I do want to line up my bottom loop because I want it to go in the same direction as the top loop, although I'll probably end up straightening them out a little bit more later on. So now I'm going to kink the wire away from me, cut off the excess, leaving about the same amount, about 1/4 of an inch. Grab the wire with the pliers, make sure that it's flush, and then form another loop. This one's pretty small as well. Straighten it out if you need to. And that looks okay. I do want to make sure the loops are perfectly lined up with each other, so they're both facing in the same direction. Let me go ahead and put this one over here because I'm going to put this one in its place. So now I'm going to attach it to the crescent moon, and that's going to be the challenge. I'm going to open up this tiny loop like this, and now we're going to hook it onto that first hole, and there's really no easy way to do this. It's a little bit awkward because of the location of it, and also because of the size of the loop. Let me try again. So here I have it connected, and that was not easy at all, but I did it. And now with these skinny pliers, I'm going to close the loop the best way that I can. So there it is, and as you can see, you really do need small loops, otherwise that bead isn't going to sit properly inside that crescent moon. So now we're going to connect the little star to the bottom of that bead. Let me go ahead and open up this loop. And now we're going to hook on the little charm. And I'm going to close it up with these pliers. These have a tapered flat tip, as you can see. It's a very small tip, which allows me to get into very small spaces. You do want to make sure that you close it really well. And I think what I'm going to do is come in here now with my round nose pliers, and I'm going to push the end of that loop in to make sure that it's really closed. So this is what we have so far. I think it looks really nice. So the next thing I'm going to do now is attach that 5mm jump ring to that top hole. Let me go ahead and open it. And this part's really easy, but you do want to definitely make sure that the jump ring is closed all the way. You don't want any gap at all. So this part is done. So now we're going to work on the rest of the focal piece. And I've actually changed my mind. I'm going to keep this piece here, but I'm going to remove these two. And I'll show you why in just a second. I have 2 more head pins here. Let me take the head off this one. I'm not going to make a regular loop because I don't want to hang anything from it, and I think it looks too distracting. What I want to do is kink my wire as close to the tip as I can get it, just like this. And now I'm going to grab the wire behind the loop like this, or behind the hook, and I'm going to kink it just a little bit so it looks like a shepherd's hook, sort of. And now using my crimping pliers, I'm going to place the wire or the hook in one of these 3 notches, as you can see, and I'm going to squeeze it. So this is what you should have. And if you need to straighten it out a little bit more, you can do so. That looks pretty good to me. Let me do the same thing to this one. Once again, I'm going to grab the pin at the very tip like this, kink it, grab the hook like this, bend it towards me just a little bit, place the hook inside one of the 3 notches, like this, squeeze it, straighten it out if you need to. And that looks pretty good. Let me squeeze this one a little bit more so it's a little bit tighter. That looks good. Now before we go any further, we need to assemble some of these beads. And for that, I will use my head pins. I've already looped one side, as you can see. And this is very simple, guys. We're simply going to thread on a bead, just like that. And now we're going to place it inside the one-step looper tool. Thread the pin through the back hole, as you can see. So once you have it on there, you want to make sure that everything's snug and the bead is right up against the jaws. And now you're going to go ahead and squeeze. Move the bead away from the jaws a little bit like this. And close it all the way. Just like that. You do want to make sure that the loops are lined up. So there's one. And now I'm going to do the same with these other 4 beads. So let me go ahead and speed up the film. As you can see, I've completed all 5 components. And now let's go ahead and assemble the focal part of the necklace. I'm going to take the 18 gauge wire, the one with the loop at the end, and I'm going to thread on one of these spacer beads. Just like that. And now one of these rondelles, and one of these components, another rondelle. So this is what we have. And now I'm going to thread on another rondelle, another component, and another rondelle. So now we have 2 components, as you can see. And now another rondelle, a 3rd component, and 1 more rondelle, and a spacer bead. So this is what we have so far. Now instead of using the one-step looper tool, I'm going to go ahead and do a simple loop here for those of you who don't own that tool. And to do that, you simply grab the wire with some flat nose pliers, kink it, and then using some round nose pliers, you're going to grab the wire, make sure that it's flush, and form a loop. And like I keep saying, you want to make sure the loop is completely closed, and you also want to make sure that it's straight. And of course, the other thing you want to do is line up your loops. Make sure they're facing the same direction. And here's the top portion of the focal. So now we're going to form the second row, and that's going to be a little bit tricky to show you. That's why I placed it on my mat. But let me show you how we're going to do this. We're going to need one of these pins. Thread on a spacer bead, thread it through the first loop of this beaded component, just like that. And now we're going to thread on one of these crystal rondelles. And now the next beaded component, another crystal rondelle. Let me show you what we have so far. And now we need to thread the pin through the loop of the next component. And that's a little tricky, so let me see if I can do this without losing my beads. Just like that. And now we're going to thread on another crystal rondelle. The next beaded component. Another crystal rondelle. This is what we have so far. So now we need to thread the pin through that next loop. Just like that. And now we're going to go ahead and put a spacer bead at the end. And this is what we have so far. So now what we need to do is form another little hook at the end and squeeze it, just like we did here. Let me go ahead and show you how to do that. I'm going to grab the pin with my skinny pliers, kink it slightly, cut off the end, and you want to make sure you hold on to everything, because if you don't, you're going to lose your beads. And now come in here again with the skinny pliers and hook it the best way you can. It's not easy because it's a very small piece of wire. And then once you have a nice hook, go ahead and squeeze it. Straighten it out if you need to. And you do want to make sure that both hooks are facing the same direction. So I'm going to grab the other one with some pliers and straighten them out. Let me show you what we have so far. So now that we formed the first and second row, we need to go ahead and form the third row and attach this dangle. Let me remove this piece of wire. So once again, we're going to grab the pin, thread on a spacer bead, and now we're going to thread it through the loop of this beaded component, thread on another crystal rondelle, let me just put it here so you can see what I'm doing. And now we're going to thread on the dangle. So you're simply going to slide the jump ring onto the pin like this. And now we're going to thread on the other crystal rondelle. Let me just show you what we have so far. And now we're going to slide the pin through the loop of that lower component like this. And now the spacer bead. So now all we have to do is form another little hook here and squeeze it. So let me go ahead and do that. So here's the focal piece finished. And now what we're going to do is make some beaded components for the strands. I have my two 8mm beads. I have 4 spacer beads, 6 more of these crystal rondelles, and I have some more of my pins. Like I said, these are the head pins that I converted into eye pins. And of course, guys, if you have eye pins already made, by all means use them. But you do want to make sure they're pretty sturdy. And like I said, these are 20 gauge and the metal is very hard. Let me go ahead and form a beaded component with one of these. We're going to thread on a spacer bead and then an 8mm round bead and another spacer bead, just like that. I'm going to use my one-step looper tool again. I'm going to place it inside the one-step looper tool. As you can see, the pin is sticking out through the hole. Make sure everything's up snug, and then go ahead and squeeze it. Move the component away from the jaws and close them like this. And again, you want to make sure that your loops are facing the same direction. And like I said before, you want to make sure your loops are closed. So there's one of them. I'm going to do the same thing to this one, and I'm going to also put pins on each one of these 6 beads. These will not have spacer beads, they're just going to be on their own. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I completed 5 of them, but I left 1 because I wanted to explain something to you. As you know, these are crystal beads, and there's nothing to protect the sides of the beads from the jaws of the one-step looper tool. So you need to be extra cautious when you put them inside the one-step looper tool because you don't want the bead to crush. So what I normally do is I go to close it like this, and then before I squeeze down, I kink the bead away from the jaws like this. I don't squeeze all the way though. I remove it, and I finish my loop with my round nose pliers just to make sure I don't shatter my bead. It's happened to me many times, guys, that's why I'm telling you. Let me go ahead and straighten out my loops. So now I have 6 formed, as you can see. Now to assemble this is very simple. I'm going to open up this loop, connect one of these, close it, and now I'm going to open up the loop of this beaded component, connect the next one, close it up, open up this one now, connect another one, and close it. So now we have 3, as you can see, and that's one side of the necklace. Let me do the same to these beads. So now I have both sides done, and now I need to connect the strands to the focal piece. Let me go ahead and open up this loop. And now I'm going to open up this one. And this is what we have so far. I think it looks really cute. So now we just need to attach chain and the lobster claw clasp. And I have the chain right here. This is the way I do it, guys. I go ahead and hook on one end. Let me open up this loop. Connect the end of the chain. Just like that. And close it up. And now before I cut anything, I'm going to take this to the mirror, hold it up to my chest, and figure out how much chain I need. I do have a preference for necklace lengths, but sometimes I change it depending on how long the pendant or the focal is. So I don't always stick to the same necklace length. But anyway, let me go ahead and take this to the mirror and figure out how much chain I need, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back and I figured out how much chain I need. I'm always a little bit reluctant to tell you how long my necklaces are because I have a small frame. But I might as well tell you, it measures about 5 3/4 inches. Of course, you can make yours as long as you want to. You can either cut more chain or make more of these beaded components. So I need to cut myself another piece. Let me show you how I do that. The easiest way to do that is to thread a head pin through the first link like this. And then take your other piece of chain and thread it through the first link of that one like this. bring them down. And this is an easy way to measure your chain lengths without having to count each one of the links. So I need to cut this one. So I'm just going to come in here with my cutters and snip off this link. And just like before, I'm going to open up this loop. Slide the chain onto the loop like this and close it up. And again, you want to make sure you close your loop really well. Here are my two 6mm jump rings, and here's a lobster claw clasp. Let's go ahead and open up one of these jump rings. Hook it onto your chain like this. Hook on the lobster claw clasp like this, and close it up. And now let's grab this jump ring. Open it up. Connect it to this strand now, like this, and close it up. So we're done with this necklace. Let me just arrange everything nicely on my mat. As you can see, I did not use the 6mm matte smooth rounds in the black color. Sometimes that happens. I'll design something and then I'll change my mind about what I'm going to do at the last minute. It happens to me once in a while because I don't know how it's going to look until I actually start assembling everything. Well, that's it, guys. There's a beautiful minimalist looking celestial piece. And I say minimalist, but it may not be as minimalist to other people. It is to me because I'm always making statement necklaces. But it's difficult to see scale on the mat. So what I would like to do is put it on and show you what it looks like. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Well, what do you think? Doesn't it look different on? It looks a lot more dainty than it does on the mat. That's one of the reasons why I like to model the necklaces, because it really does look different, and necklace displays really don't show scale. And that's because necklace displays are usually smaller than a human bust. But anyway, guys, I know it's an unusual design and it's not for everybody, but maybe you can make it with different kinds of beads. It's very versatile and this design works with just about any bead. And by the way, guys, I forgot to ask you in the intro, if you've seen the Aurora Borealis, would you mind leaving some comments down below to let us know what it was like? I've seen it many times in videos, but I'm not sure if they're using filters or if they've sped up the film. I'm hoping they didn't do that, because whenever I see footage of the beautiful lights moving around like that, dancing around like that, it's mesmerizing, it really is. So anyway, guys, I hope I've inspired you. I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Have a great day and I'll see you next time. Bye.